I've recently met with a lovely person walking on the path of enlightenment. This person expressed quite some frustration about not being able to make conscious decisions. The frustration didn't come from the fact that conscious decisions are not being met, rather they are not being fulfilled. And that person related that to not being a conscious creator. This person posed me that question, not even as a question, more again as a frustration. And I was feeling into it. What I've discovered about myself is the submission of the human part. The total submission to the soul. The word submission on itself brings the mind, comes to mind in relation to a fight, to a struggle. But then there's submission out of fear, out of defeat. And there's submission out of compassion to self, out of sheer understanding and true feeling that all war is a loss, all struggle is inevitable, all fight is energy drain. In a point of submission, when the ego and the human part is able to submit to the own soul, not to an outside God, an outside force, a different perspective or belief system, just to the self, with the understanding that they are one. When the submission is there, the total letting go and giving up of the fight, of the struggle, a state of peace is found. The war is over, the land is quieted. No more fires on the fields. And gradually, up from that point, spring is coming. Flowers are blossoming, the grass is growing back. And an understanding follows. An understanding how things really work. How creation works. An understanding that comes from a deep knowingness. Not from reading it in a book, putting 1 on 1 plus 1. That comes after the understanding is there, after the mind is able to listen to the heart through quietness. And the knowingness is there, and suddenly the brain follows suit. And there are thousands of aha moments just because the brain is suddenly getting it, it's picking up and really getting how creation works, the mysterious ways of the soul. And the total submission continues. Because the brain would try from time to time still to figure it out by itself. And it would try to make sense before the heart shows the knowingness. And that's the point of frustration. That's when we just don't get it. And then the ego kicks even more in and remind us that we are not really conscious creators, that we don't really know what we're doing, that we're just faking it. Sounds familiar, huh? It's the old stories coming back again. Just because the lack of belief is there, just because there's a doubt that comes from fear, and the fear is based on not being able to understand, not being quiet. And all of this is okay. It happens again and again, and it starts to quiet down. The lapse or the relapses are starting to become longer and longer because the brain does adjust. The experience, the new experience, is helping the brain to relax, to know that the knowingness is there. It just needs to be tapped into. So what I have experienced is having constant and clear communication with the soul is what helps the brain understand. It helps the soul understand, and it helps the brain understand. Both polarities that are so far from each other. They are connected, but the far further that they are from each other, the less they get it. The closer they can come to each other, then they can sense each other. I'm still creating and manifesting many, many things now in my new life, in my new self, just through going through it, walking the path and creating it while I'm walking it. And the brain doesn't understand how it creates it. From time to time I'm stopping on the way to look at a flower, to gaze at a beautiful stone, and then the brain catches up and says, oh yeah, that's how we did it, that's how we manifested. It's beautiful, it's amazing. A conscious creator knows there's all the time in the universe. There's nothing to rush. There's nothing that needs understanding. Rather, tapping into the knowingness at the right time, at the right moment. And that comes automatically. The less I try, the quicker it's there. And again, this letting go and submission is so important there for both human aspect and divine aspect to unite as one in the now moment of the experience. And then the understanding is there and everything flows. Conscious creation is a lot about trust. Trusting that right at the last second, whatever needs to happen will happen. Because the human on the linear experience, his vision is limited. It's just the horizon. but for the higher perspective, the expanded consciousness, the soul, the sight is all around, is all seeing, the eye is all seeing. It knows past, future, and present. It looks at things from a higher ground. Its horizon is vaster than the human can perceive. Trusting that and allowing that to unite with the human part at the right time, at the right moment, just letting it happen, trusting that. That's conscious creation. That's creating in a new way.